get is y'all don't know anything about racing. This is true. You're right. You're in the wrong show.
Yeah.
You're watching the wrong show if you want to hear like super engineer stuff. Had to had to swallow that food, bro. Jeez Louise. Welcome back, everybody. As you can see, today the fandom is out of control over here. As Evan mentioned off camera, off air, I was gonna bring out the flag and wear it, but I'm downstairs, so I can't wear it today. So I apologize for that. But the Tifosi is alive and well over here on this side of the as the foreigners like to call on this side of the salt. But
The salt.
Yeah, you never heard that?
No, the side of the pond, baby.
Yeah, I've heard pond. I've heard Atlantic. I've not heard salt.
So I watched a show called Warrior. It's a I don't know if you guys have seen it on Netflix. It's about the Western expansion when the Chinese came over to San Francisco from I guess from the Pacific on that side. But they always say when you cross the salt in the show. So I'm like, cross the salt. There we go.
They might have made it up for the show. I don't know. I've never heard that.
Sounds good to me. It is salt water, whatever. Yeah. Cross the salt.
It works.
It works. Right? It works. Hey, you learn some new slang every once in a while, and you get it from places you don't expect. So, anyways, I digress. What's going on, fellas? How Monaco GP? Super exciting? Not really. I'm just kidding. But if you're talking about on a 10 out of 10 scale for storyline, yada, 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 it's a 10. As far as racing is concerned, it was probably like a 2 out of 10. But talk to me. How do you guys feel about the race? Just in general, right? Obviously, Leclerc winning it all is the headliner there, right? Monegasque winning the race first. Obviously, this is the race that he has wanted all along, and it's been 92 years since someone from Monaco won the Monaco GP. So really, was it 93? 93, I think. I think my crack staff over here, aka Sheena, tells me. So really excited about it. I'm happy about it. And I found out some really cool things as I started, because then I got on this trip and I started watching the movie Ferrari, and then I watched Ford versus Ferrari.
Look at you.
I just I got on a complete high this weekend, and I started watching all those movies. And nice. I got to say, I found out some pretty cool information about Le Mans and about, obviously the story with Carroll Shelby and Ford versus Ferrari. So it was really, really cool that I found out some stuff about some of the Le Mans drivers that are actually F1 guys or former F1 guys. Fernando Alonso's won it a couple times. Antonio Giovinazzi won it last year, if I'm not mistaken, as part of his team. Roman Grosjean, and the list goes on and on and on. So I found it pretty interesting to see that some of the big names actually still race Le Mans and all that as well. So pretty cool. But I know I'm going on a rant here, but hey, podium for both drivers. Obviously, Leclerc P1, Carlos Sainz in P3, and you mix in the papaya power there. Listen, guys, questions are starting to be asked, and should they be asked? I think that's the question I have, but we'll get into that. Vish, Evan, I kind of want to get your take on what you guys felt about Monaco as a whole, and what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was exactly what me and Vish were talking about last week. It's a procession. It's a glorified, Memorial Day parade that we have every single year at 9 a.m. In Monaco. But overall, I think it was what we expected. There was great qualifying. That's always the fun part of the weekend is watching that qualifying. it was awesome to see, these guys go out there and really push the cars to limits. One of the few racetracks that you see, these guys are inches away from the wall, inches away from mistakes happening. And it's fun to watch that part of it. But then when the race comes, I mean, it's exactly what we said. It's a procession. It's a parade. It's, just basically, a celebration of that the history of that track, having or everybody just ride around there. But I mean, it even goes so far as, to show this was the first time or one of, the few times ever that the drivers ended the same way that they qualified in the top 10. So like the top 10 finished the race exactly how the top 10 started, which, again, like I said, shows just how processional that track is. But it was fun. It was, exciting in the very first lap, when the big wreck happened and Checo was out of the race, and we all thought, okay, cool, there might be some strategy going on here, but then everybody just changed their tires and it went from there. So, at the end of the day, it is what it is, but it was still fun to get up at 9 a.m. and watch that race and, enjoy everything. So how about you, Vish?
Yeah, it was drive around for 70 laps with nothing happening. Which, the one thing key with Monaco is determining when to pit, and that was taken away on the first lap with the red flag. You didn't have to pit anymore, so that was basically it. And I know, the commentator's job is to make everyone, try to stay locked in and pay attention. They spent 50 laps of the race talking about pit strategy when everyone knew no one was going to pit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they're like, well, if they open up this gap, I'm like, no one is pitting because you cannot pass. And so, it's just, and of course, like, eventually Lewis got enough of a gap where he had a free pit, so he took it. Then Max took the free pit in front of him on fresh tires in a Red Bull. Pulls right up to a Mercedes on worn mediums, can't pass. Like, you cannot pass. Like, it's just
awesome.
It's so, like, I don't know what they were doing. Like, all this, like, well, maybe I'm like, no, unless someone wrecks and like brings out another red flag, there's not going to be any tire changes. Even a safety car, if you're not sure, if you don't give up position under a safety car either, because even with fresh tires, you cannot overtake. So,
I think that's what we were all waiting for, right? It was like another red flag, another, something crazy to kind of happen to break the, to break the monotony of just seeing the guys go. However, though, right? Like, I know this is a different Ferrari team. We've noticed it, right? Tire degradation has actually been, a strong point per se from these Ferraris. And, the last couple of years, you've seen Leclerc make some critical mistakes, right? A couple of years ago, he had the race won. Also made a mistake, qualifying, made a mistake. He still happened to sit on pole there, but he still made a mistake during the race. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened the last 2 or 3 years for Leclerc and Ferrari as a whole. Their pit strategies suck, right? The car doesn't perform, the reliability, this, that, and the other. This was kind of like, we got it. We finally got it right. Everybody, and including me, I was like at the edge of my seat because I'm like, something's gonna happen. They're gonna screw something up. I mean, it almost happened with Sainz, right? He got lucky that he got his place back, because the FIA ruling on that incident or whatnot. So when I saw that, I was like, woo, here we go. Now this is great. This is a great strategy for Ferrari to be able to have a guy, in the top 3 there with Sainz kind of holding off Lando. So, I mean, everything worked out the way it was supposed to work out, but the drivers also drove the way they needed to also, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, Leclerc drove a hell of a race, regardless of what the conditions were. We all know Monaco, 4 overtakes total, and everything was in the back, right? Those 4 overtakes were in the back. So it really didn't matter. It didn't have any skin in the game per se. But, sometimes I got a little nervous when, you had to kind of pass the guys that were getting lapped, right? You kind of like, oh shit, is someone going to, run into one of these idiots for going too slow or staying, or anything could have happened. And with Ferrari, typically for the last couple of years, if it could happen, it will happen. And it didn't. And to be quite honest with you, I'm really impressed with the way that the whole team has performed all year round, right? They're only 31 points, I think, away, Leclerc,
Yeah, we'll
is
get
a
into the
bit,
standings in a
you know,
bit,
so
but it's tight enough
it's tight.
where it's
It's tight.
competitive.
You know,
So
it's really that Fred Vesser, influence on them. I think, he's done a great job in this, for what has been there now 2 years. Really changed the culture there. Matteo Bonato was a fixture in Formula One for so long, but when Fred Vesser got there, he took that team to another level, and you're seeing it come to fruition now. They were the only team that beat Red Bull last year. They were the first team to beat Red Bull this year. And obviously now, McLaren stepped up and is up there with him. But overall, Fred Vasseur has done a lot for this team. I think, he was a big reason why Lewis Hamilton wants to go there, from what everybody's been saying. So that's what a good, general manager or a good, team principal will do for teams like Ferraris. They don't have those little mistakes that you saw them happening or you saw them, making before under Matteo Bonato. And that's a good thing. Whether it's, the question of does Ferrari always want, an Italian guy running Ferrari, obviously they took this chance and did this, and it seems to be working out for them.
We have some.
Obviously, they took this chance and did this.
Someone's got.
Why we got an echo in here?
Someone-
Watching the show, man?
No. For some reason, it popped on my phone.
Well, man, we got a viewer though. We got a viewer. So
we got a viewer, Evan. All right, baby.
All right.
Thanks, man.
So I don't know.
I don't know what happened. It popped on my phone.
It's an F1 incompatibility with Monaco issue. It's both. Like, I don't know what you mean it's not Monaco. When the cars, it is you asked earlier, yes, the cars are too wide.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, the cars are too wide to pass there, but that's both things. You can't widen the track and the cars are too big. So collaboratively can't pass unless someone really screws up or, catch them like asleep at the wheel. But at the front, that's never going to happen. Obviously, everyone's locked in there. So yeah, it is a bit of a parade.
You notice the biggest difference between the cars, and I think I saw it on Twitter somewhere in 1988 to 2024. I mean, we're talking about basically half the car, right? It's half the car length. That's a huge difference. So it is tough.
Yeah, no, the cars have gotten progressively bigger, and the track cannot.
Yeah.
So
I talked about it last week. Goodwood had an event there. Not the week before the race, they had an event there where they had all the classic cars go out there. You can watch it on YouTube. Just go to Goodwood's YouTube channel and you can see where they had cars from the 60s racing. They had then the cars from the 70s, the cars from the 80s. They had all the different eras, and even those guys who aren't professional drivers. These are guys that are just they own these cars. They have a few ringers in there, obviously, but they're racing these older cars better at Monaco than more aggressively and more able to do these passes because and that's something that going into these new regulations that we'll probably get into later on, but that they are talking about changing is making these cars a little bit smaller, maybe not too much, but a little bit smaller, and hopefully be able to change some of this and make the racing a little bit better.
So let's talk about the standings. I know we've got we have a couple questions for you guys, but I want to get to the standings on the constructors and the drivers before that. But just like as we mentioned earlier, Vish, it's getting tight, man. It's getting tight on both the drivers' championship and the constructors. I don't know wherever you want to start first with, I guess, the drivers' championship, but it looks like with this win, Leclerc kind of gets really close. He's about 31 points. Is that right? 31 points.
Yeah, he's 31 points. Yeah, if there's a max DNF, he can really take a chunk out here. And
I mean, you also got sprint races coming up, so there's a lot of opportunity to take some points there. But look, at the end of the day, I think Max is
Max is.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but yeah.
But one place you can get ahead of yourself is the constructors because it's 24 points, which obviously there's a lot more points available for a constructor than a driver, and Checo sucks ass. Correct. So this is really in play. This is much more of a coin flip at this point because you figure you stake Max a 31-point lead, like his car is not. But they've seemed to have been caught up, but it's not like this car doesn't work or something where they're not going to be able, where he's not going to be able to still win races. You kind of like his chances there, but he's going to have to hold off both Ferraris by himself. That is
pretty much right. And we saw that happen at the end of last year also, right? Where kind of Checo fell off after winning a few races and everything. Then he kind of stunk it up also. So he's kind of He's
Yeah, but
kind of
not like
following
this.
that. No.
Not
He's
like
been
this.
terrible this year. I get it for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say terrible, right? Because he was in second place up until maybe a few races ago. But he has great, and he's borderline pretty crappy. So yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for not only Ferrari but McLaren to kind of sneak up there a little bit more and really give Red Bull a run for their money. Also, right? They've got two guys that are driving incredibly right now. Also, so it begs to ask the question because first of all, let me put this out there. Obviously, Leclerc winning, taking pole, and the way, as you mentioned, Evan, earlier on, that it kind of stayed chalk, right? Everybody, the way that they started is where they ended in the top 10. Um, that to me, in and of itself, right there, right? Because you kind of has asked the question. I think a lot of people ask, well, what the hell's going on with Red Bull? They look like crap. And I know we say, well, if Max takes pole, he probably doesn't give up the lead either, right? If Checo takes pole, maybe he doesn't. I mean, I know he's been racing terribly, but but I think that can apply for most of the drivers that are in those top three teams, right? McLaren, Ferrari, and
Red Bull.
a Red Bull. So I think it could apply to any of them. However, the fact of the matter is that Max qualified sixth. So that is kind of shitty, right? That's a concern a little bit, even though it's Monaco and the overtaking is impossible almost, right? So he didn't really have an opportunity, and I know he got close to this to this guy wheel to wheel on those tires and whatnot. He couldn't pass. How the fact of the matter is that's still a pretty crappy showing for Red Bull in Monaco, finishing sixth in qualifying and then just kind of staying there and not being able to do much. You still kind of have to ask that question. Is there, we talked about it last week, right? It looks like McLaren and Ferrari are catching up. Ferrari looks really fast. McLaren with those upgrades looks, really quick also. So they're battling it out now, and now they're starting to catch up and really compete with Red Bull, where before we were like, oh, Red Bull's going to win by 20, 30 seconds, at least Max is, and the rest is history. But now you're talking about there's a little bit of competition now, and Red Bull is giving away some points, and Ferrari's outperforming them, McLaren's outperforming them. Should there be a concern? I kind of want to get your take on what's going on there. Is this the Adrian Newey effect as well, or is that kind of like, well, we're kind of past that already at this point? It doesn't really matter what Newey does because he's got no control over how that car performs at this point. But there's got to be a question, right? There's got to be a question there about what's going on with Red Bull right now, because we thought maybe we weren't going to see much of a difference until 2026. We're starting to see these guys catch up a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's a number of factors that are playing into it. With this race specifically, Max wasn't happy in that car the entire week. He was talking about it earlier in the weekend. He was saying that the rear grip that just wasn't there. That car we talked about in Miami, it just doesn't light up the tires quick enough. And at this track, you really have to get those tires in the right window in order to perform at the maximum level. And at the end of the day, in that qualifying, he was just not able to do it. And you have to be so comfortable in the car in Monaco. You have to trust it. You have to completely, put yourself into that car and be one with it, as they say, in order to be able to perform at any type of level. And if you're at least a little bit hesitant, you're not going to be able to extract the best time. And obviously, with Leclerc, he had that going for the entire weekend. He was, I think, first in FP1, first in FP2, if I'm not mistaken. He was up there the entire weekend, because he just had that car set up. The team had the car tuned in perfectly, dialed in right the way that he likes it, and he showed exactly what he needed to do there. And the results are he won there. He got first place in qualifying, and then ended up winning the race. But to the bigger point, I think the fact of the matter is Red Bull has, not that they've maxed out this car, they got to a level that they're at, and they don't have the allocation of wind tunnel testing, CFD testing, stuff like that a lot of these other teams have that are back there. The way that they structure all that is, the higher you are in the championship, the less CFD and wind tunnel testing you have, while everybody else is allocated more. So they don't have the time, but they already have the car at a level where they are dominating, and they've been dominating. I think at normal racetracks, at Imola, like they were just at even going to Monza eventually, that car's still going to be an amazing race car, and it's still going to be a race winning car. But when you get to these tracks, like even Canada coming up, in 2 weeks, those are tracks that there's going to be opportunities for these other teams to step up and really show that they can compete with them. And I think that that's, the place that they're in at this point, because I don't know how much more big changes they can do. I don't think Red Bull has, traditionally been a team that's come in with these big upgrades, like you've seen McLaren the past 2 years, like you've seen Mercedes, upgraded their car, and they're looking more racy, now, Monaco's again a different, story to everything else, but overall they're looking a lot better and a lot closer, than they've been in, the past year or so. So we'll see what happens, but overall that car is going to still be fast, and it's just a matter of, let's get these other cars up there with it on a consistent basis.
Vish, are you concerned at all about the way that the Red Bulls kind of performed
No.
recently?
No.
Do you think there's still more opportunity? I mean, look, there's 4 different guys that have won now this season.
Yeah, no, the gap is closed, but I think there's still a gap there. I think if you look at, the spread here from where Max finished qualified in 6th to 3rd is a couple of hundredths of a second. He would have been 3rd. Leclerc killed it. He's way up. If you look at the timing in Q3, he was 2/10 up on Piastri. I mean. Yeah. And then Piastri was another 10th up on Sainz. And then from him all the way down to Max, it is just right on top of each other. And we kind of forget that there's been Leclerc has done well in qualifying a lot this year, but normally when the race comes around, we know what the Red Bull DRS is and all of that. It kind of gets a race and you forget, but of course you can't pass here. so it gets, that advantage was not there. I think it's still the fastest car. Max is still the best driver. It's certainly the best driver car package. And so, no, I expect him to win his share of races down the stretch and still win the championship. But again, constructors is a whole other issue. As much as, it wasn't necessarily Checo's fault he DNF'd, it was his fault he was down that part of the field because he couldn't get out of Q1. So, you keep having stuff like that happen. It's going to be hard to hold off McLaren and Ferrari as they both drivers keep scoring points, and as Max doesn't win every single race,
right? Because I mean, honestly, even though still, right, I agree with you, Vish. Red Bull's still the fastest. That's the fastest car on the grid still, no matter what. And to be honest with you, Checo's car is fast as shit too, but he just sucks, right? Like, you got the fastest car on the grid, man, and you're finishing, you're out in Q2. I mean, it's ridiculous, but. For me, though, just kind of looking at it, they are still faster. Max is still the best driver, but he is making a couple mistakes here and there, right? Where you don't normally, you normally haven't seen him do, right? You saw him in Miami, kind of make a mistake. He ate that barricade. He's made a couple of mistakes, a couple of errors that has cost him maybe some races or cost him even some time. Where now we're noticing that some of these other, teams are catching up, or at least closing the gap a little bit. So there is a chink in the armor, if you ask me. However, I'm gonna still gonna say, RB is, Red Bull is still your, it's still the fastest car. But if you make a mistake here or there, now you've got Ferrari and McLaren that are quick enough, and you've got good enough drivers there that they're going to be able to compete and possibly win some of these races.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. The gap is closed enough where those mistakes get punished now. Before it didn't matter, and now that there's more pressure, they're going to make more mistakes. We saw this. Hamilton spent several years just cruising out front. And once the gap closed, all of a sudden him and Max are running into each other and everything else because the pressure is there now, and they're on the limit. And these guys are amazing, and they're able to drive on the limit for lap after lap after lap, but eventually you make a tiny mistake and it goes. And so I think we're seeing, we're going to see more mistakes there. I think he got too much of a head start on the season.
True.
I think for it to get pulled back at this point, but yeah, no, it's definitely a much more entertaining season than what we thought we were going to have. Even a month ago.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what I love about it. It's thank God now we're working to sit here and just sing every damn week. Here we go, Max P1 again, Max. I mean, now you've got a little bit of excitement, a little bit of competition, and I think it just makes for a more exciting season. And to be honest with you, I think you're gonna start reeling in some of those fans, the McLaren fans that were kind of like, oh, here we go, right? Or the Ferrari fan that's like, oh my gosh, right? Or even the Mercedes fans that, oh, what's going to happen next year? You got so much movement that's going to happen next year also. But some of these guys are still driving. Is it going to be Carlos Sainz? Oh my God, he's kicking ass at Ferrari. But like we want him. I mean, there's that excitement to add on top of what's going on the actual track itself. So whereas maybe last year or the year before there wasn't as much going on. You kind of saw a lot of guys re-signing early with the teams extending their contracts. And so that could be something that's going to be fun coming here down the road. We got it's in a couple of weeks is Canada, right?
Yeah, Canada.
Yeah.
Canada. Okay, so we got that. Speaking of down the road, speaking of news, you mentioned it, Evan, wind tunnel, right? You talked about the wind tunnel. Well, I guess that's what Mattia Binotto is going to do over at Aston Martin. Apparently, the news is that he is going to join them. I don't know if it's this year, next year, probably starting next year, and really kind of focusing on building out that, I guess that wind tunnel, and then.
Did we lose him?
I thought it was me, but I think it was him. Yeah, we lost you. We heard wind tunnel and then frozen place. Apparently, got caught in the wind tunnel. And, it wasn't your mic. It wasn't your. Yeah, you're back. It wasn't your mic. It was your whole video froze. Everything froze. You froze in place.
Here I am, Mattia Binotto, going to Aston Martin. That's what I said, right? That's one of the things.
Yeah, that we got. And then you were talking about the wind tunnel. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things he may have done right at Ferrari. Now he's going over to Aston Martin to kind of be is it the technical officer over there? Is that what he's going to do? I don't know.
It's one of the technical officers. It's one of the staff members there, higher up staff members there. He's not taking the desk job. Let's say that.
Yeah. Good move for Aston Martin, or better move for Binotto because he's back in Formula One. Do you think it makes it a difference what he does over there in the long run? Is that kind of? I mean, I know Crack is still the guy at Aston Martin. Mike Crack, baby, what a name! You gotta love it. It's like one of the best names in Formula One, right?
For sure.
Mike Crack, come on.
For sure.
Don't get me started.
I mean, as long as Mattia Binotto isn't making decisions when the team is coming in for pits and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, let's be real.
At least they're not asking him how many plans there are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but let's be real. If they got into a position where that mattered, that'd be great for Aston Martin. I think everything has context. At Ferrari, some of those years the cars were really competitive in the pit strategy, and the decisions he was making, his overall management of the team was costing them like race wins. At this point, you'd gladly take whatever he's doing. You'd gladly take being in any kind of mix if you're Aston Martin, because they are way off the pace.
Yeah, Alonso's saying that car is more of a mid-pack car now than a front runner car.
They've fallen off. Well, I think it's also we've been talking a lot about how Ferrari, McLaren have closed the gap. That closing that gap to Red Bull also pulled them away from Aston Martin, who was kind of on their tails a little bit.
For sure.
And I have to say, Mercedes is kind of
Mercedes is
crap the bed a little bit too, right?
Yeah, no, they're not. They still haven't recovered from getting the design wrong in this generation of cars, and it's lipstick on a pig.
Yep. Let me ask you a question, guys.
By the way, Ocon might get fired. We should probably talk about that.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that was next. It's interesting to me. I got to go back to Ferrari for a second because we're talking about Mercedes and obviously Lewis Hamilton coming over to Ferrari next year. Carlos Sainz. I mean, look, I'm one of them, right? That I'm starting to see these two Leclerc and Sainz kind of finally put it together, right? As a team, like they look great as a team right now. Sainz is having probably one of his best seasons. Leclerc starting to put it together a little bit now as well. Won this race. It's a great team. It's a great team if you put those two together and they perform the way they're performing now. I think some people, including myself, are like, if only they were doing this a couple years ago. I mean, things, you might not see Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari in 2025, right? And it's not to say that they weren't driving right. They were having a lot of issues outside of what they were doing on the track itself. But, I was talking about it this week, and then we're like, Lewis Hamilton's coming right now when these guys are starting to peak and starting to really kick ass. And at the same time, I'm like, it's Lewis Hamilton. What are we talking about, right? Like, it's the GOAT, right? But it's tough. It's tough. You think Ferrari fans are kind of on the fence now? Or they're like, oh man, I wish we still kept Sainz, or are they like, it doesn't matter,
not at all.
Let's go.
Not
It's
at all.
Lewis Hamilton. Like, what are we
Not
talking
at all.
about, right?
There's it's a different class of driver and quality of driver. And if they really want to, and who knows, with some luck, maybe Leclerc can compete this year, but if they really want to advance that car so everyone's like, that is the best car on the grid, Hamilton will help them do that.
Is Leclerc still number one?
That's going to be tough.
No.
Cats tied it up, by the way. The Panthers just tied it up.
Let's go.
I don't know. That's going to be the main, or that's going to be the big question in the start of next year is which driver does get priority there. We'll see when that first upgrade package comes in. We'll see when if they're going to put that upgrade on Leclerc's car, whether they're going to put it on Lewis's car. My guess is it's still going to be Leclerc just because he's younger, and this kind of feels like like a rental.
I think initially they'll let him race, right? They're going to let him race.
They're going to let him race. It's kind of like when Michael Schumacher went to Mercedes. Right? It was the end of his career. It was he had retired and came back in. They wanted to have that big name driver. Yeah, he came in and he was still,
who was he there with? You guys will know better than I will.
Yeah, Rosberg.
Rosberg, yeah, he was there with Nico Rosberg. So again, a quality driver that had championship aspirations, kind of similar to Leclerc. Where now you have a veteran, one of the greatest of all time drivers going in there with a young and upcoming driver who has that championship potential. But just hasn't put it all together yet. What was it? That next year when Lewis was there is when Rosberg won the championship, or was it the year after?
Lewis won there before Rosberg.
Okay, so Lewis won, and then Rosberg won the year after. So it's like, it's one of these situations. It's like if you saw, Lewis Hamilton there for a year or two, then they put Kimi Antonelli or something there. One of those upcoming guys. Like how Lewis went in and then you got, Leclerc winning after that. But, at the end of the day, that's going to be one of the big questions at the start of next year is who really gets that priority.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going to be Lewis. I mean, Leclerc is barely the number one driver now. They didn't go get Lewis Hamilton to be the number two driver. Like, it's going to be him unless it gets to a point where which is possible, where he's being outperformed. And they have to make a call there, but he didn't. You don't go get him to be a number two driver. And it's been a while since we've seen him in a competitive car, so we'll see. I guess the asterisk there and whether or not he still has it. But if he has it, like, this won't be competitive.
Yeah, if you see that he's out there, he's
a different caliber driver. So, and that's I'm assuming Ferrari was operating under the idea that he still has that ability, or they wouldn't have gone and got him. Now,
guess we'll see.
I will say the future of Mercedes. Ooh. So, I mean, Evan and I know this well. When Hamilton left McLaren, it was kind of like, what is he doing? McLaren's at the top of the grid, and then he knew what was coming.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
And you got to wonder, what the future of Mercedes looks like. Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see Toto leave in the near future as well.
You mentioned that. You mentioned that bitch a couple weeks ago.
And their engineering team has been stripped dry because, again, when you're at the front, everyone poaches your people.
Right.
All of that goes into the cost cap. So,
you
can't just match salaries even.
They should just bring Gabe back.
Yeah. They should definitely bring Gabe back. They were winning championships.
I know. I know.
Oh,
Gabe,
yeah, I know.
we got to get Gabe back on the show.
Yeah, we got to get Gabe back in the show. Yeah, but so I think I would say Lewis is probably pessimistic about their ability to essentially have a race-winning competitive car before he's too old to drive it, and so I'd be very worried if I'm a Mercedes fan.
I agree. I hear you, man. You mentioned
which again,
right?
leading to Carlos. Like, I don't know where he goes. I think he can pretty much pick a seat on any of the teams that are.
I know the latest one was Williams. I don't know if he's going to do that.
No, well, Williams said they want him. I guess. Well, I mean, who was it? It was Audi said they want him.
Audi, yeah.
But he's like, well, everyone wants Carlos. He can pick whichever seat he wants. So I mean, it is. I mean, you have a race-winning top 5-ish driver available, but. So he could pretty much. I mean, he's obviously got to leave Ferrari. Who knows what's going on at Red Bull?
Well, apparently the latest news out of Red Bull is Checo is going to resign, right? It looked like he was going to extend his contract. That's what I saw recently also. So if that's the case, and obviously, that window closes at Red Bull. If that happens, however, there's always a lot of rumors, right? The latest rumor about Carlos was that he was going to win, or Williams was the top pick for him. Like, come on. What are we talking about?
He can do better than Williams.
Exactly.
Mercedes might be I mean, he's gonna. There's politics there, right? As well. On merit, he would be in either Mercedes, a McLaren, or a Ferrari, or a Red Bull, right? On merit, but sometimes there's they want to bring a young driver in or whatever. So we'll see. But Williams to me is like a dead end. I don't know why he would go there.
I'm not sure.
I got an interesting question that I was thinking about. Speaking about Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes and all that stuff. Is Lewis Hamilton the reason why Mercedes has so many fans? Like, for instance, in Formula One, in that that thought process of Formula One, like, are they the Patriots with Tom Brady, where as soon as Tom Brady left, you saw a lot of Patriots fans become Buccaneers fans real quick. Is it like LeBron in the NBA, where there was a lot of people who ended up being Lakers fans that were not Lakers fans?
I can actually answer that for you right off the bat. I know a couple of people, close family members that are Mercedes fans, but they're Lewis Hamilton's fans first. So when they found out the news that he was going to Ferrari, he's like, oh, wow, here we go. Now I'm a Ferrari fan. I still love Mercedes. They're still, one of my favorite team or whatnot. But it's Lewis Hamilton before anything, right? And I think that's the same thing. It's the Tom Brady effect. It's the go. You're gonna watch him play, and you're gonna become you're a fan of his before a fan of the team. I mean, it kind of it's gonna happen to me a little bit. Carlos is my favorite driver, so now I'm gonna have to see him in another. Ferrari's still my team. It's to a lesser degree, of course, because he's not the GOAT. I mean, these are people that have been following Lewis forever, right? It's kind of a different. Echelon of driver, a different, it's just different. There's more history there, obviously, and so on. But did they score again? Let's go.
Yep. I was gonna say, Pat, they scored again. I was waiting for the opening.
So it's to a different degree. I was still gonna root for Carlos, but except if he's in a Red Bull, then he's screwed with me. But aside from that, it's still a Ferrari fan. But Ferrari, that's the difference with like Ferrari and even McLaren. Is those fans like they're not?
They've been fans of that team.
The Ferrari fans are forever.
Yeah,
but
Ferrari fans.
Even like matter. Williams,
it could be me and you in that car.
Even Williams fans are the same way. Funny enough, they haven't been great for a long time, but people who have been through with Williams, from when Frank owned the team and everything, they're still Williams fans.
Absolutely.
And it's like I said, I think it may come from that thought process of. The team is still. I mean, yes, they took over Braun, which was Honda, and everybody knows that great story. But the Mercedes only really started like right when Lewis Hamilton got there. Like that's when they came back into Formula One after leaving.
Ferrari's the other way around. If Lewis goes, the Ferrari fans will be like, "You're dead to me, Lewis."
Exactly.
You're dead to me.
It's for them.
Power, you know what I mean? Yeah.
For them, it's the name in the front before the name in the back. We say that in all other types of sports. Is somebody a fan of the name in the front or the name in the back? And that's
absolutely.
That's realistically what it is. And that was a question that I wanted to pose today because it's like again. I wonder how many Patronus Mercedes shirts and hats you're going to see floating around these paddocks now after Lewis leaves.
Depends what happens in the off season.
Yeah,
depends what happens. I mean, if you get a couple of guys out there that people really like, then it could spark spark a little more.
But Hamilton's a different.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
just
he's a different level.
Well, what he represents to a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
he's kind of a trendsetter, right? He's
well,
the guy.
I mean, let's just be.
He's the voice of Formula One.
Everybody knows who Lewis Hamilton
also
is.
will literally be black and white about this. He's the only person of color that's ever won anything.
That's true.
In Formula One,
of course.
And
so he brings in that demographic too, which is great, right? Like that.
Yeah, no, but there was even. There is still some. Obviously, it's gotten significantly better. Just rampant racism in F1, and even into the 90s. Black people can't drive, stuff like that. They would say, and then this guy shows up, and he's the goat. He's black. I mean, so for a lot of people, that was like, it's exactly. It's a little bit of a Tiger. Not to that level, because Tiger Woods, I think if people weren't alive when he became a thing, holy shit, that's a whole thing you never like. No one can recreate the Tiger Woods thing, but it's a similar. That's a great analog. Like it's similar to that. Just like you just don't see that. So he'll bring those fans, but as Jazz said, that's a drop in the bucket compared to Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari's got this, which is actually it
doesn't matter what color you are. Ferrari,
Evan,
you're red. And they only see red. That's it, right?
Well, which is interesting because every single one of those Tifosi, I guarantee you, 99.9% of them has never even owned or driven a Ferrari.
Well, how the hell? I mean,
that's the whole world, by the way.
I'm just saying. That's what I've always found that interesting.
I'm driving my Chevy Silverado with this hat. I get off and I go,
it's hilarious to me how dedicated they are to that one brand, and they've never even been near a Ferrari or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I get it. No, right? I lower the window and I'll have a Ferrari hat on in my Chevy. I mean, come on.
No, but actually, Evan, when you mentioned LeBron to the Lakers, that's actually a good comparison because he brings his own fans with him, but it's the Lakers. I mean, they don't need LeBron to bring fans.
If he leaves,
but he's still
Lakers are gonna be like, you're dead to be LeBron,
yeah. So.
But there was a lot less people. There was a lot less people keeping their Cavs jersey from LeBron than there would be keeping their Lakers jersey from LeBron.
One last thing before we go, Ocon might get canned for obvious reasons because he's a bit of a jerk.
For obvious reasons,
He's a jerk. No. What happened in Monaco? That was something exciting. What happened in Monaco, right? He tried to.
There were a couple of things on the first.
Tried to kill Gasly, apparently. Yeah.
I don't.
They thought they could recreate Miami.
Well, I don't. Am I the only one who doesn't think it was that bad? He went for a movie, effed it up.
Believe it or not,
you don't do it on your own teammate.
Gasly kind of screwed that up too, though.
But you don't do it on your own teammate. That's where the mess is.
Gasly could have backed out. Gasly could have backed out a little bit, also. I think a little.
Well, okay, so
those two hate each other.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't. There's a lot more going on there than that move. Is my point. But he got a 10-second penalty, which was then converted to a 5 grid place drop because his car was out. He got 5 grid places for that. Magnussen didn't even get investigated for just wiping out Checo and causing the red flag.
Well, because they already know that they're going to ban him for the next race.
Well, they can't. Well, that's why they didn't investigate him. What's the point of having
race? Going to race again, at this point, right?
Yeah,
unbelievable.
No, he will race the next race because they didn't investigate him. So there's no points.
They're not obviously going to give him points for that.
No, there was no racing incident. There was no investigation. They didn't penalize him.
Are you kidding me?
Which is why they didn't do it because they decided they weren't going to ban him. So he should just floor it, man. Just go straight through the. Yeah, no.
I can't believe I forgot this, right? Gene Haas selling off Haas as well, right? So there's not going to be Haas anymore either.
Well, he's selling Stewart.
How does that work?
He's selling Stewart Haas to NASCAR.
Stewart Haas, right? Oh, okay, so it's got nothing to do with the Formula One.
However,
the Formula One team.
However, I mean the head of FIA, that Mohammed Ben Salem, did say like Andrea should just buy a team.
Yeah. And that might be it right there.
Which, I mean,
the interesting thing going on there is, I know we don't talk much NASCAR here, but that is kind of a big thing. Haas has been a part of NASCAR for a long time, longer than he's been a part of Formula One. Not quite as long as he's been a part of IndyCar. For CCH over there, he knows that, but which, by the way, before we get off, I do want to talk about the Indy 500 at least for 2 minutes. But at the end of the day, that's a big team that's leaving NASCAR, and whether this affects how Haas is in Formula One, we'll see. I mean, I agree he should sell to Andretti. I think that would be a much more competitive team. Get a deal in where they can still run until 2026 or something like that, and then Andretti will take over.
By the way, before you get into NASCAR or IndyCar, whatever it is that you were talking about, another fun fact: former Le Mans winner. Helmut Marko.
Yeah. Oh, Marko.
How about that?
Yeah, history.
Yes.
Oh,
history
yeah, man. I
journey
saw it
on-
all. I Wikipedia'd the hell out of Le Mans last night. Okay. And
Does that mean you're actually going to watch? Does that mean you're actually going to watch some Le Mans this year?
We'll see.
24 hours.
Those hypercars are pretty damn cool, though.
You can watch her. You can watch her a little bit, and that Ferrari hypercar is a rocket ship right now.
Shout out to Ken Miles, though. Ken Miles. All right. But listen, another former. It's funny, right? Former Le Mans winner Bruce McLaren didn't even race in a McLaren, and he won. I know this is before that. I get it. I'm just joking around. I'm kind of throwing some stuff out there to see if CCH goes, yeah, rookie, no. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I Wikipedia the shit out of it yesterday. Okay. I thought it was pretty damn cool that I saw these guys, these former, even F1 champions, right? Fernando Alonso and all these guys kind of be a part of those teams. It was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. I'll definitely watch some. It's in a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah.
Right? June 6th.
Yeah.
Right? June 6th, I think it is.
It's a weekend of my wife's birthday.
Very cool. I'll definitely watch a little bit of that. So if I can remember. Anyways, go ahead, because we definitely went over big time today, which is fine with me. But
Yeah, I mean, do your
thing.
Well, I just wanted to say, for CCH and the couple of other of us who watch the other types of motorsports besides Formula One, this weekend's Indy 500 was a fantastic race. That's one of the greatest things about this past weekend is you have Monaco at 9 a.m. You have the Indy 500, which was supposed to start at 1 p.m., but ended up starting around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then you have the Coca-Cola 600 right after. There was a big fanfare with Kyle Larson going out there from the NASCAR circuit, driving in the Indy 500, and he raced pretty well, and it was good racing throughout the entire thing. It came down to a last second pass on the last turn by the last lap by Joseph Newgarden to give him that win over a possible future Formula One driver in Pato O'Ward, somebody who has that talent to be up in the level of Formula One, racing on these ovals doing 230 miles per hour is really a fun thing to watch. And just seeing those guys go around there at those speeds, it's incredible. For all of our fans that love Formula One and love watching Formula One, give IndyCar a shot because these guys, the racing is just as good, if not better at some points, because the cars are so much more even than they are in Formula One. Any team at any given time could be up in the front. So that's the thing I wanted to say about it. Like I said, I thought it was fantastic, but we got to get people into watching that a little bit more too.
It's fun. I agree with you. It's hard for me to fit in everything into my life. Yeah. It's crazy. I actually start my new job tomorrow, so it's
nice. Congrats.
It's crazy. Yeah, man. It's been a long day today too. So, and we've officially moved baseball to Thursday.
Yep.
So we've got Kings on deck on Thursday. It's okay, Jane. You never have to say sorry around here.
Yeah,
all right, your family. It's all right. The good news is you could always catch it on the replay, or you could you could be a part of the rewatch crew if you want, Jane. All right, you can be a part of the rewatch crew. But yeah, make sure you follow us on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons. It's every Monday night. Tuesday night. Jesus, I thought today was Monday, but it's actually Tuesday. It's every Tuesday night at 9. It was a hell of a show today. Really, I was pretty excited. I guess it's because Ferrari won, but that's just me being biased. We don't have any predictions for you, and I didn't have any predictions last week, but I'll tell you who I predicted.
Wait, hold on. I do have ours.
I predicted Leclerc, Piastri, and Sainz. That's what I predicted.
No, you predicted Ferrari 1, 2, and 3.
Correct.
That's what you predicted.
You're right.
I do have our predictions. Evan had Lando, Charles, and Max, and Lewis Hamilton with the DNF. Not bad.
Way off.
Actually,
way off.
Actually, I didn't realize that I had Max, Oscar, and Carlos, so I got 2 or 3.
Wow.
Wrong winner. And, All right. Here's where it went horribly wrong. So my surprise was Ocon scores a point. Well,
Yeah,
he got through
he
like
scored a
two
point,
turns.
all right.
He got some points on his license, which should count.
Yes, he
I
did.
think, yeah, I
Yes,
think,
he did.
Yeah,
I
you
think
didn't
that's-
specify which points, so you're fine.
And then,
Yeah,
and then
I like
Carly had Max, Lando, Oscar, and then a surprise was Danny Rick getting in the points. So
Carly, I can't believe you didn't have a Forza Ferrari in your top 3. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. What are you gonna do? I mean, I clearly had Ferrari with somehow Ollie Behrman got in one of those cars and was able to win too. So,
Yeah.
anyways, all right. And if you guys are still up, make sure you catch this game. They're going into the third period. Florida killed the power play, and they are up 2-1. So let's go, Cats. Make sure you follow us again every Tuesday night.
I'm watching Mavs Wolves, but you guys watch your
That's right, yeah.
hockey.
Mavs Wolves. The Mavs. I mean, if the Mavs don't go to the finals, then Vish might have a conniption.
We've blown worse, so nothing is done till it's done.
Yeah.
And they better win it all. All right. One question for you, Vish, before we go. Is Luka Doncic the face of the NBA right now, moving forward?
The face.
Not until LeBron leaves.
You still think LeBron is still the face of the NBA?
I think LeBron is still more known. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. It's
Now
unbelievable.
once LeBron leaves, then that's another question. When LeBron leaves, Doncic has that capability. He has that notoriety already, especially internationally. I think internationally, he's right there up there with LeBron.
These two that are going at it right now, Doncic and Anthony Edwards, they're going to be special for years to come.
For sure.
Well, another probably a more confusing question.
Check us out tomorrow.
Is who's the best American player? Because
that's a good question.
Like you got Doncic, you got Jokic. Like a lot of these Jokic. I mean, a lot of these guys are like they are a lot of better players are forward now. So.
It's true.
So.
I mean, yeah, it's probably. I mean, Anthony Edwards is up there, of course, but
yeah, he's there. Maybe Shea Gilgeous-Alexander too is there.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell is probably still up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
tough. That's a tough question.
Because LeBron is
still up there. Yeah, LeBron's still up there.
I don't know that he's not that. He is.
I don't know if he's the best player in the NBA anymore. Obviously,
he's not.
He's still a top 5 guy, top 10.
You still got Steph. You still got
Curry. He's kind of.
Those two guys faded. That's why the question's interesting because they got these really young, talented guys coming up. It's like who's actually
the guy that quietly
all coming up together. So it's very interesting.
Well, the guy that loudly faded was Steph Curry, right? I didn't hear a lot about him this year. Kyrie Irving is having the postseason of his life.
Yeah.
So I always thought he was one of, if not the best pure point guard in the NBA. That's Kyrie Irving. But
Kyrie Irving is one of the greatest players, to me in this generation out of pure potential. It's like if he ever lived up to that potential that he has and the talent that he has, he could have been, probably up there considered with LeBron and especially
he's great, but he's had moments of unbelievable eliteness.
Yeah, exactly. One of the best ball handlers that of any generation.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens. Anyways, good luck to your Mavs.
Good luck to your Panthers.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. By the way, as much as he did LeBron wrong back in the day, JJ Barrera, we're JJ Barrera fans, man. He's a local kid. We gotta like JJ Barrera somehow. But that's as far as it goes. I don't even know why I brought that up. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Buckets. You got buckets tomorrow?
Yeah, we have buckets tomorrow.
Buckets tomorrow. Canes on deck on Thursday. We got a lot to cover in baseball. That's why I wanted to kind of do it Thursday because we got a lot to talk about. Transfer portal is open. Vish already started sending me players that have entered the transfer portal that Miami should go after.
By the way, tryouts are open. Head out to the line.
Tryouts. Me and Evan are going out there.
Tryouts are open.
Vish may go out there to coach third base.
There you go.
So I can do it. Go home. I'm sending you. I don't think after what's going on, you're going. I'm sending you home.
Oh man. Oh boy. Anyways, we'll see you guys here. Make sure you tune in. 5 Reasons. The 5 Reasons Canes Network is where you'll catch a lot of that stuff. But make sure you follow us on F1_5 Reasons for all your Formula One stuff. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.
Bye.